Hello everybody, this is Jason Fisher from timeandfreedom.com, here to do a review on Organo Gold and to talk about why so many leaders are leaving the company of Organo Gold, and to also talk about why many of these leaders have found out that there is no long-term residual income with Organo Gold. I want you to understand that I've been in the network marketing industry for 18 years. And I've learned the hard way. 7.5 years ago, I lost $1.5 million home because I had an organization of 5,000 distributors and customers rot down all the way to only 56 active people. And as I was sitting there, losing my home, I started to think about the reasons of why people got involved with this industry, but then I also started to think about this universal principle. We're going to cover those in a moment. But I want you to understand that I have learned that if you are going to have long-term residual income in this industry, it is backed by a very, very important universal principle, chased by the two definitions of why people join in this industry in the first place. If the universal principle is applied correctly, there's massive success when it comes in terms of earning long-term residual income. If it's applied incorrectly, there is massive failure. What is this universal principle? It's called the 80-20 rule. 80% of people don't do too much, while 20% of people do something. Or 80% of the money is earned by 20% of the folks. But what it basically means is that 80% of people don't make things happen in life in general. Now I want you to understand that it's no different in the home-based business industry. Most people in the home-based business industry don't do much either, 8 out of 10. But take 10 doctors or 10 lawyers or 10 chiropractors or even 10 cab drivers. 2 will shine and 8 won't do too much. It's a universal principle that we cannot break. We can't break it here, we can't break it in China, we can't break it in Japan. It's a universal principle that's applied throughout the universe. Now understand this, is that since most people are not going to do much in the home-based business industry, I started to think to myself, as I lost everything, well, why did they even join in the first place? Because this is where the conversation starts getting interested. People join because they wanted to earn income from home. They wanted to be their own boss. That's why people join these type of businesses. They want to be their own boss and they want to work for themselves. The second reason why they join this industry is they are attracted to the opportunity of earning lifelong willable residual income from building a business once. Well, once I started to think about this universal principle called the 80-20, and once I started thinking about why people join in this industry, I started thinking, well, what makes these businesses work? Doesn't matter what company that you join. We get paid on numbers. Numbers equal orders, and orders equal residual income. Whoever has the most numbers on the board is going to earn the most residual income. The question is, what happens once people get in, depending on which company that you join? And that's where the story becomes very, very interesting, because there's success in this industry and there's failure in this industry. And from what I've seen with Organo Gold and talking to many of the top leaders in Organo Gold, they've experienced some of these issues with earning long-term residual income because the business model is faulted. So let's go through this for a moment. Once we figured out that we need numbers on the board, I said, you know what? I need to find something for the 80%ers, because I went from 5,000 down to 56. I need something for my mother or my brother or my sister or my next door neighbor, somebody that doesn't have a large drive or tenacity or any type of sales experience, because I've got to find something for the average person, the average Joe, the average Mary. But as I started to travel around the country and meet with many top industry leaders, they had thousands and tens of thousands of numbers on the board with hundreds ordering. And we were trying to figure out, well, why was that happening? And it's become very, very clear to me. As we start to look at the landscape of the entire MLM industry as a whole, including at Organo Gold, we see that all these businesses are all 20%er businesses. They're not made for the 80%ers. What do I mean by that? The only people ordering in the end of that business are the 20 percenters that are trying to stay actively qualified for their bonuses, royalties, commissions, and overrides. The products are not something that are designed for the 80 percenters. The price point of the products are extremely expensive. They're usually 2 to 3 times the actuality of what it should be in the marketplace. The comp plans are designed for the 20 percenters. The 80 percenters have absolutely no chance whatsoever. You've got to understand this, that if you're going to build lifelong residual income, you need something for the average person, period. If you don't have that in place, it's never going to work. And from the price point of the products in the MLM industry, and specifically Organo Gold, and the price of the cost, it does not compete. The buy-ins of what it costs to get started in that business, that's not something the 80 percenters can justify. It's not something they can justify with the auto ships either. $120, $200 a month in auto ships in many of these type of companies. But in Organo Gold, it can be anywhere between $80 to $110 or $120 a month. And that makes it very difficult. Then all of a sudden, once I figured out that I needed something for the 80s, I said, let me really think for a second and for a moment why they completely fall apart. Why I went from thousands down to 56. And here's what it is. All these companies, they all have great products. They all have great services. They really do. But the problem is they start changing people's buying habits to the tune of $120 to $200 or $250 a month in products that they never bought before at prices that they never paid before. And 120 days into whatever particular program, for instance, Organo Gold, when they're not making money and they show their face as that 80 percenter, 120 days into the deal, they can't justify those products amongst auto ships, amongst getting others to start in the masses. They can't justify $150, $300, $1,300 buy-ins to that company, Organo Gold, when they can't justify that to others. And they're not making money, which the 80% aren't going to in any particular program. But specifically, we're talking about Organo Gold. What's the first thing that they cancel after 90 to 120 days? Their auto ship. It's done. They're out. They didn't even see value in staying as a long-term customer. Understand this. Most people aren't drinking $80 to $120 a month worth of coffee. So if the person's not doing the business and they're not sampling massively or even sampling a little bit, and you have to hold that customer on the board as a customer itself, staying active with their monthly auto ship, you lose. If they're not doing the business, they're not consuming $80 to $110, $120 a month worth of coffee. And it's not just Organo Gold. We can go down the list with many companies that operate on this theory and this concept. But understand, that is the downfall of the industry. We're asking people to buy products that they weren't buying before at prices that they would never pay long term. And we're asking them to consume more than what they would normally consume on a monthly basis. If we're going to win in this industry, we have to have a business model where it makes sense to be a customer first and foremost. Whether there's a financial gain being made by being involved with that company or not, it makes sense to stay a number on the board and being at least an active customer. And that is where Organo Gold falls short. I said to myself, if I'm going to win in this industry, I've got to find something where if the 80 percenters decide not, the 80 percenters can make money and they can succeed. I've got to find that, number one. That they find a business that they don't have to justify a new need in the marketplace or a new cost factor for a monthly consumption that's not real. A monthly consumption of 80 to 120 a month is not a real consumption of coffee every month. Yes, everyone drinks coffee. Do they drink it at that amount? No. And if they're not doing the business, are they going to continue to drink it at that amount? The answer is no. So I had to find a business that the 80s could win at, where they didn't have to justify a fictitious monthly consumption. And number two, I needed to find a business, whether they took action or not. If they became that 80 percenter and didn't make things happen in that business, that they had an overwhelming value to at least still stay as a customer, stay an active number on the board monthly, because that's how you earn long-term residual income in this industry, period, over and out. Nothing more, nothing less. Between the buy-ins of the company that the 80%ers can't justify, between the monthly consumption that they have to get people to consume to be active members on the board. It's a binary. You need a left side and a right side. And you have to get people on auto ships. And if they're not on auto ships, they're not making a check. That is not something that the 80%ers can do. We need to find a business model where they're not creating a new need in the marketplace for a fictitious monthly consumption of a product that people don't do long term. We know that. I've seen the numbers. I've seen people's back offices. I know the numbers don't stay on the board. Yes, people can make a lot of income in that business. The 5%ers and the 20%ers do. The masses fail. They don't even have a shot in the dark to even win from the get-go, because it violates the 80-20 universal principle. I want you to understand this, that if you are interested in talking to myself, my business partners, you can fill out the contact form on this page and get in contact with us. But I'm going to very much strongly suggest that you register for our next upcoming webinar talking about the multi-level marketing industry lies exposed and the problems of why people do not earn long-term residual income in this industry, and the solutions to that ongoing problem if we want to create long-term, willable, reliable residual income. So either contact us on the contact page or register for our next upcoming webinar, which is going to give you more insight on this industry. And just as much as we're going to go through the problems in the industry, and we're going to go through the exact issues, and we're going to go through factual numbers of why this industry has never produced long-term residual income, and we can look at that by just seeing what these MLM companies do in the United States without going international. How have they done 5, 10, 15, 20 years with creating market share, market consumption, consumers buying month in and month out? They've failed with that. It's all based on people joining in for the big buy-ins. That's what produces the majority of the volume in this industry in whole. It's not because numbers are staying on the board. And I learned the hard way. I went from 5,000 down to 56 because I didn't have a monthly consumption that made sense for the masses to continue, where there was overwhelming value to stay as a consumer. That has to be the main point of this whole conversation. So either fill out the contact form, register for our upcoming industry webinar. We'd love to chat with you. Thanks for joining me. Again, this is Jason Fisher from timeandfreedom.com.